Good afternoon, happy Tuesday, and welcome to the very first episode of Sports Talk from the Heart with Nicky Steez here on YouTube, both on my channel and the Hardcore Sports Network. So please feel free to do us all a favor and make sure to drop a like and subscribe to both channels if you haven't done so, both my channel and the Hardcore Sports Network. So with that being said, let's get into it. So for the first episode, what I'm going to do here is we're going to talk a little bit about some different subjects here. Got in mind, first we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, then I'm going to talk about the 76ers, particularly about what's been going on Twitter and some of their fan base, a lot of the unrealistic expectations. Then we'll talk a little Eagles football. You see, I'm repping the Eagles here. Just decided to pick something that was Philly for this. Then I'm going to talk about, I'm actually going to switch it up. Going to talk a little bit about the MMA world, particularly UFC, about Amanda Nunes's retirement and the significance she had during her run in the UFC on that sport particularly. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Phillies at the end, particularly yesterday's game against the Diamondbacks and some of the events that occurred there. All right, but enough with the Babylon. Let's get right into it. Let's talk a little NBA Finals first. Yes, sir. Last night, the Denver Nuggets won their very first NBA championship in their 40-plus year franchise history, defeating the Miami Heat in Game 5 by a score of 94-89 at home to win their first championship. And now, obviously, the Joker, a.k.a. Nikola Jokic, gets his first NBA championship, which is awesome. It helps to solidify Jokic as one of the top star players in the NBA and helps raise his stock. And also, for the Denver Nuggets fan base, it's awesome right there that they finally got to see their team win a championship because they've waited years to see this team finally do something. A lot of times they've made the playoffs, but they come up short. They didn't make it to a Western Conference Finals with Carmelo, but ran into Kobe, Powell, and the Lakers, and that ended there. Then eventually Carmelo wanted out. He went to the Knicks. Nuggets had to go through a long rebuild process. And Jokic now, he is officially the lowest player drafted to win the Finals MVP. Before that, it was Dennis Johnson, who won the 79 Finals MVP for the Celtics back in the 79 season. But now, Jokic has taken that spot, which goes to show you your draft position really doesn't matter that much. It's not really about mainly where you get drafted. It's about what you do and how much you produce. Now, Jokic, obviously, he fell down the board 2014 being a foreign player. This was right before guys like Giannis, Jokic, Luka, and them broke out. And now you're at the point now where European players or foreign players being stars is now becoming a more common thing. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander making his first All-Star game. So that international talent, yep, it's coming now. Even some of the guys from Canada now are starting to become some stars too. And Jokic is following Giannis' footsteps, and winning a championship helps solidify that, yes, the day of more international stars in the NBA is here, folks. That's right. You had guys like Dirk and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili paved the way for them. But now here we are in today's era. Yeah, you got guys like Jokic, just one of those guys leading that way for the international players now. Right, obviously the pick and roll style, foreign countries have adopted to that. In their game, it shows that, hey, their game is still pretty good too. Even though here in the U.S., the NBA is the main sporting organization when it comes to basketball on this planet. But hey, there's still a lot of good talent out there overseas. And they've come to the NBA and put their talents on display. And Jokic is just one of those guys that's done that. He won 2 straight MVPs the previous 2 seasons, but the Nuggets couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. And also did have some injury concerns. Jamal Murray was hurt last year. But hey, now this year, obviously, my guy, Joel Embiid from the 76ers, he got his MVP award in the regular season, which was earned. But come playoff time, we saw who stepped up when it mattered most. Jokic stepped up for the Nuggets. He also had that help from Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. help. So you had those guys right there. And Aaron Gordon finally gets to win a ring as well. somebody else missing on my mind. You got Caldwell Pope won a championship. You got, so it's good for the Nuggets right there. And you saw throughout the series. I mean, obviously you saw the guys just playing together well. And you saw for the Denver Nuggets particularly, having their guys healthy, how it made such a difference this time around opposed to last year. You had that Jamal Murray there, which helped Jokic. And yes, Jokic could still go out there and dominate, but he also had reliable help too. And Michael Porter Jr. was out there too, being a reliable help. And even for him, you know what? But I respect his attitude on that team, because even last night he said the points really didn't matter the most. It was about the team first. And that's why he's such a good player for that Nuggets team. Yeah, Porter doesn't put up the most flashy numbers. He's not the biggest name in the world, but he knows how to play his role with that team. He puts the team first. He's not out there stat padding just for his own sake. He understands that, hey, he's not the main star of the team, but he knows he's a role player and he's got to live up to his role. He goes out there, he scores when needed to, he gets you some assists when needed to, and he helps out, does what he needs to do. And that's what's good to have a player like a Michael Porter Jr. on your team as a role player. You know, he's not concerned about stat padding. He's kind of what James Harden could have been, possibly to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but he wanted to obviously break out and be a star of his own. So obviously that was him over the team. And but the point is that, like you get in the day and age when a lot of players start to break out, they look for new contracts. They're more focused on trying to get big paydays. But in this case, you didn't get that here you're not getting that with Porter. He's out there just trying to play his role. You had like Julius Randle, solid role player, but he wanted to be a star. He wanted to go elsewhere and get more shine on him, but he's not best suited for that role. I think Julius Randle's best suited as a good role player. And we saw with the Knicks in the Eastern Conference against, the Miami Heat, how that worked out there. Well, Julius Randle trying to lead alongside Jalen Brunson. But obviously, and Aaron Gordon too. He's another solid role player. He's a veteran piece, not the greatest player in the world, but hey, he knows how to play his role. And see, that's what you've done. But he's done an excellent job over there. That's what Malone's done an excellent job building that team up. And you saw it throughout the playoffs. The entire time, everyone was healthy. Everyone was out there doing what they had to do to take care of business. Went in there, took care of the Timberwolves in the opening round. Timberwolves had their problems functioning as a team. Nuggets run point. Nuggets took advantage of that, took care of business. Then you went on to the second round against the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Suns on paper looked like they could potentially be a contender to make it back to the finals for the second time in 3 years. But obviously we saw what happened when they matched up. We saw it was clearly the better team. Best rounded, who played better and was more healthy. And sure enough, the Nuggets came out. And plus, you had a Jokic 30, 20, 10 game there as well in that series. Then the Lakers. They came in, they were fresh, young, hungry, and they took care of business against the Lakers. And the Lakers were, beside the Nuggets, the hottest team in the West going into that Western Conference Finals, because Lakers, they built all that momentum up second half of the season when their front office finally realized, we need to get younger. They carried the momentum to the playoffs, took care of this falling apart soap opera Grizzlies, took care of the defending champion Warriors. So Lakers went in that Western Conference Finals hot, momentum-wise, but the Nuggets made sure that went away in a sweep. And they clinched their first NBA Finals, and they took care of business against the Miami Heat. Now, to be fair, I got to give some credit to the Miami Heat. I can't, Nuggets deserve props for winning, but the Heat deserve credit too. They were mainly reliant. They had a lot of undrafted players that just came onto the team. They had to play through the play-in tournament just to make the playoffs. First, they lost to the Hawks, then they had to beat the Bulls just to get the 8th seed against the Bucks. So they came in as the 8th seed against the Bucks. Now, granted, there is the asterisk of Giannis being injured, but hey, the Heat still took advantage of their opportunity, did what they needed to do, and they won that series. In a series that because I thought going into it, it was going to be the Bucks and Nuggets in the finals. That was my original prediction. But the Heat went out there, did what they had to do. And then the second round, you saw they took care of the Knicks. And then they went out, took care of the Celtics. Everyone thought Celtics were the favorites, because going into the playoffs, a lot of people thought either the Celtics or the Bucks would be the Eastern Conference favorites. And then the Heat went out there, They beat the Celtics in 7. Now, granted, they did have a 3-0 lead, and they almost blew it, but they won the game 7 when they needed to. So they still deserve credit there. They had a nice run there. Yeah, Jimmy Butler went out there. I mean, and I'll get to Jimmy Butler in a second, his run here. I mean, his playoff run, he had some nice performances on the way to the finals, but in the finals, he wasn't that dude that the Heat needed him to be. Even last night's game, I mean, Jimmy Butler last night, yeah, he started to play better late in the game, but early in the game, he was cold shooting. And even at the end, he missed that 3 that could have potentially tied it in the fourth quarter. So even then, Jimmy Butler, he didn't deliver when it mattered most. So he didn't put forward his best effort. And the rest of the team, and obviously the Heat were missing Tyler Hero most of the series, came back. But either way, the Nuggets were just a better all-around team. Now, maybe if Hero was there, it would have been a more competitive series, which also goes to show the value of Tyler Hero on that team as well. But, hey, that didn't pan out that way. But, hey, the Nuggets were still the better all-around team. I think they were winning that series no matter what. And also with the Heat, though, too. But the thing you got to keep in mind with the Heat is they have put together a good team. Pat Riley and his role in the front office put together a good team that stepped up when it mattered most. So they deserve some credit, too, for making it this far. A number 8 seed to claw and scratch their way just to make the playoffs. Went through the 2 top teams in the Eastern Conference. Granted, one of them was missing their star player in the Bucks without Giannis, but they still went through that. You know, they beat the Knicks, which was expected, and they did beat the Celtics. So they made it to the finals. So they deserve credit for that run right there. And that goes to show you that you don't have to have the most flashy players in the world. You don't have to have the biggest names on a team in order to make a deep run or win. And you really look at the NBA in the past couple of years. Like, the super team concept hasn't been working so hot in later years. Like, it started off with the Celtics. It worked with those 3 right there with the trio of Garnett, Pierce, and Ray Allen those years ago. Then the Heat, it worked with them with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. But then also you've had a lot of other teams that tried to imitate it throughout the years. Like the Thunder tried it after KD left. They tried getting PG-13, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony. That didn't work out. You had the Nets tried it a few years back with KD, Kyrie, Harden. That didn't work out. And you also had, the Lakers tried it initially. Well, they tried it with the Kobe, Nash, Dwight Howard, Pau Gasol. Then they tried it with, again with the, LeBron, Dwight Howard, Carmelo, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. I'm sorry, I just had to laugh about that one. But yeah, point is, later years, the super teams haven't really been working out as well. Meanwhile, the teams that are put together, built from the ground up, have been doing better in recent years. Like, really, I'd say the 2019 finals was the collapse of the super teams when the Raptors beat the Warriors to win that, because the Raptors had a lot of players that were put together, homegrown. And you also added the addition of Kawhi to that to just give them that extra boost they needed. He was just that missing piece they needed, and it worked out. And then you also look at, as well, with the Bucks. They weren't a super team. They had Giannis, Chris Middleton, but they also had some other, they got some veteran players that were role players, the Lopez's. They also had Drew Holiday, former Sixers, who fit that team perfectly, and it worked out in their favor. And even the Warriors in 2022, last year, they'd been there, done that, but they weren't necessarily a super team. Right, and you look at this year with the Nuggets, obviously, I wouldn't consider them a super team, and the Heat certainly were not a super team. So it's good that we're finally getting belly from that super team. We're actually going with regular team build, traditional team building. It's working out. Now, as far as Jimmy Butler goes, I talked about Jimmy a little bit. I did just short about it. I know it's going to be an unpopular take, but I just don't see Jimmy Butler as a superstar. He's not on the same level as your LeBrons, your Jokic's, your Giannis's. He's just not that guy. I mean, yes, he's put together a few nice playoff runs for the Heat, but even then, it doesn't lead to a championship run. I just don't see a team with Jimmy Butler as the number one player winning a championship. I mean, they might get close, but I just don't see them get over the hump. I mean, you've seen it so far this run with the Heat. They got there twice, but they've fallen short. Even the other years, getting swept by the Bucks in 2021. Last year, losing in the conference finals to the Celtics. It's just, yes, Jimmy Butler is an all-star. He's a good player, but I just don't think he's that superstar guy. I know he's got that attitude that everyone likes. He puts out that dog mentality publicly, and a lot of fans like it, but it's like that being said, though, I don't see him being on that elite level. I mean, obviously, yeah, he's a good player, but I do think he's overrated to an extent. And when I say overrated, I don't mean bad. I just mean not as great as being credited out to be. So, yes, and congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. Enjoy that right there. You deserve that championship. Now, going to switch gears. Thinking about it, this brings me to the Sixers. Because the Sixers have an MVP level center in Embiid. But, obviously one of the biggest differences between the Sixers and the Nuggets is the Sixers didn't exactly put together a championship level roster. I mean, obviously they don't have the same pieces. They don't have the same role players as the Nuggets do. I mean, there's talent on the Sixers roster too. You got Embiid. You got Harden. Obviously, we know he's an all-star, so future Hall of Famer. But when it comes playoff time matters most. He doesn't bring his best, but he's expected to perform at a top level. But he doesn't do that when it matters most. And you got Maxey. I'm still waiting on him to take that next step. And then Tobias Harris, it's like, Tobias is like I've said it before. He seems like a role player. Like he'll play good at times, but he doesn't play up to his contract on a consistent basis. You'll get some good performances from him, but he doesn't play up to that contract on a consistent basis. He can go. And you look at the rest of the team, I mean, okay, D'Anthony Melton, decent player. Decent. But then you got outside, they got PJ Tucker, a veteran, but a veteran who didn't play well with the system. Then you also got guys like George Niang, Furkan Korkmaz, guys like, Dwayne Dedman, Montrezl Harrell, who didn't pan out as well. You compare that to what the Nuggets have done. The Nuggets obviously have a better roster, as I illustrated earlier about 10 minutes ago, talking about how they got their star player Jokic, Jamal Murray. They got some nice role players, Michael Porter Jr., Caldwell Pope, you got Aaron Gordon, some of those guys. Whereas the Sixers, they have Embiid carrying them. Harden, who plays good during the regular season, but doesn't play at his best when it matters most. And then Tyrese Maxey, who's good, but still needs to take that next step. Tobias, who's inconsistent. And the rest of the roster, most parts replaceable. I mean, even D'Anthony Melton's a solid piece, but obviously it's shown that him being there is not enough to make a difference in that regard. They still can't get past the second round. And not to mention, I got Embiid, and I hope Embiid saw that game last night and he took some notes. I hope he follows Jokic's performance in the playoffs and takes notes like, hey, this is what I got to do come playoff time. I got to step up like this when it matters most. Unfortunately, part of the problem is he's made of glass and he constantly gets injured. That's the one big thing that always seems to be a problem. Every year come playoff time, it's always some sort of injury. He's always playing through injuries. Now, he still goes out there and performs, but that injury always will put him at less than 100%. Now, that's not an excuse, especially for that Game 7 performance. That is not an excuse. It was a terrible Game 7 there. But Embiid should take notes from Jokic's performance and see what he did. Because what he did is lead when it mattered most and stepped up when it mattered most come playoff time. And that's something that Embiid's got to do going forward. And obviously the Sixers got to retool their roster. And now that I said that, now this is where I'm going to get more into the fan side of things. Because I've been seeing it going around on Twitter, Sixers Twitter, a lot of the fans, let's just be real, a lot of them are just putting out their garbage. They are. In terms of suggestions of who we could trade for, who we could acquire. They're just putting out trash. I've seen it. I mean, I tuned in to Mitch's Morning with Mitch show. I saw it yesterday. I saw it. It was Sunday I saw it. He was talking about, he showed a couple of videos from Sixers fans, and he reacted to it on his live show that he did Saturday morning, where he's talking about, he reacted to the poor cases put together by Sixers fans. One fan was trying to push for the Sixers to get LeBron, didn't put together a good argument. Then there was another that put a case that they should go after CP3, and that was a really poor one. I mean, it's just a lot of nonsense. Sixers fans always pushing, oh, we should get this guy. We should get this guy. Like, it started with LeBron when the rumors that he was going to retire came up. Sixers fans were pushing that. Some of them were pushing that we should try to get LeBron, which, all right. You really think LeBron's going to leave the Lakers? Okay, think about it. His son is enrolled in USC. LeBron's, in recent years, he started to push away more toward filmmaking and his time away from basketball. That's what he's been doing right there. It's obvious that LeBron's interested in doing some other ventures as well. And obviously, Los Angeles fit closer to that venture with some of the filmmaking stuff that he does. So that's why he wanted to go to the Lakers for reasons of interest. It's more appealing for him. It's more convenient for him to be there. He's got a property over there. So obviously he's not going anywhere. And it's been made perfectly clear. He wants to play one season with Bronny on the roster, just to make history, have that one season where father and son are on the same team, and then go call it a day. And the Sixers, they're not in position to get Bronny, so he's not going to make that move to come here. And furthermore, remember back in 2018, some of y'all actually thought he was going to go. He was going to come. It was pretty much all but official. He was going to the Lakers back in the late spring, early summer 2018. We all knew it. It was all but official before he signed the contract. He's going to the Lakers. But some of y'all got sucked into the clickbait talk of thinking that he might come to the Sixers. And if I wasn't on YouTube at the time, but if I were, I definitely would have called y'all out on it, said, don't buy into it. It's not happening. And yeah, obviously we saw that didn't work out. What makes you think now at this stage that's going to happen? That's just an unrealistic expectation. Even some people put together the suggestion that, oh, if LeBron comes to the Sixers, that'll be the missing piece. Okay, well, he was with the Lakers, with that team. They got swept by the Denver Nuggets. So what makes you think that LeBron would all of a sudden be the missing piece here? We don't really have much of a bench at all. First, we got to retool the roster. So that's not really going to work right there. Obviously. So even then, you saw LeBron with the Lakers when the roster wasn't that strong. They struggled. Like, remember 21-22 season? They didn't even reach the play-in tournament when the roster wasn't on its best. And even early in the season this year, when the roster wasn't strong, they struggled. And then finally, it wasn't until they fixed the roster that they actually improved as a team. If LeBron comes to a situation with the Sixers where they don't have the right depth, what are they going to do? Exactly. I mean, I don't see them going that far, making a push. And so that's not good. That's a bad argument right there. And then I saw an argument that we should go get CP3. This is just such a bad one. The opening said that Chris Paul should come home. All right, hold on. Let's double check something real quick. Chris Paul hometown. Let's see. All right, now I'm going to show you guys for proof. So Chris Paul's hometown is Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There, you saw it yourself. Philly is nowhere near home. So you didn't even get that right. And then the guy, keeps saying that CP3 would be good addition because he could come in, score off the bench. But you've seen he's washed. He doesn't know how to score off the bench. He's not doing that now. He can maybe give you a few assists, but he's not a guy that's coming in scoring off the bench well at this point in his career. So that's an invalid argument right there. And besides, he's just washed as a player. It wouldn't be a good fit. And then, of course, people are again pushing for Bradley Beal. It's like, Guys, haven't we been through this before with the Bradley Beal talk? Oh, Bradley Beal should come to the Sixers. We should trade for him. First off, our best chance we had at Bradley Beal, our best chance was last year when he was a free agent. And what happened? What did he do? He re-signed with the Wizards and has a no trade clause in his contract. So obviously, that's not going to work right there. And so you really think it's not going to happen? Bradley Beal's happy with the contract he has with the Wizards. He wants that bag. He wants that money. He's not really, I think he put that ahead of trying to compete for a championship. But that's what he wants to do, then all power to him. But we've been down this road before. It's not going to happen. You really think he's going to waive that no trade clause, do you? Ask yourself that question. It's just ludicrous right there. It's just so much nonsense. And then again, I see another one. People are pushing that, we should pull off a trade with the Blazers for Damian Lillard. Guys, I did a video about this 2 summers ago, summer of 2019. I was down by like the beach and I was recording with that scenery in the background 2 summers ago. You can go on YouTube browser, type in Nicky Steez, Damian Lillard. You'll see the video. I said that they shouldn't do it because they'd have to give up too much for Lillard. And again, 2 years later, I'm saying the same thing. It wouldn't happen. It's not going to happen. They're not trading for Lillard. They're going to have to give up too much to do it. So forget about it. Like, these are 4 possibilities that are just absolute. Like, guys, I understand. Look, either one of 2 things are going on. Either fans are getting caught up in the idea of it, where it sounds good, but they don't take time to actually think about it. They don't take time to stop and think, okay, would it actually work out? Or what about the roster around them? What about the coach? Would this player be able to get along with the coach? What would they have to give up to get it? What would the roster look like after the trade? Those are things that people don't really think about. They just get so caught up in the idea of LeBron being a Sixer. It sounds great, but they don't think about what it would mean for the team if they went that direction, how it would hurt them, whether LeBron would actually agree to it or not. Here's LeBron, and look, the NBA, the players run the show for the most part. LeBron James has enough power to say, not doing it. And furthermore, like, look, and I think another thing too, some of y'all guys are spending too much time playing 2K, my league, or my NBA as it is now for 2K23. And you're doing these rebuilds. You're doing this trade finder thing. You're pulling off trades for these guys. And you probably simulate your little season. It gets you to the playoffs as a top seed. You simulate to the finals and you win the finals. But newsflash, that's a video game. That's a computer simulating it. That's not the real world. That's not how it actually works in real life. So some people too, they get so caught up in thinking that the 2K simulation trades could actually work. But usually when teams try stuff similar to that, how does it work? Exactly. And we got, still playing SNES NBA Jam. Hey, that's cool. Some people still like to play the older games. That's cool. All power to you. But as I was saying, though, the point I'm getting is when most people do is they play the video games. Sometimes they play the video games they think that actually works in real life when it doesn't. I know sometimes it's fun on the video games to say, what if this player played with this player? What if this player's on this team? It's fun to do that in the video games, but it don't work that way in the real world. It don't. It's just like, and here's another reason too, I think people are pushing this out there. They're just looking for stuff to talk about, especially these guys that got partnerships with YouTube. They're just looking for content to put out there. So they're pushing out all these possible scenarios just for content. So that's another reason too. So I'm not getting caught up in that. I'm not. But now that I'm still talking about the Sixers, let's talk about something more realistic. a possible realistic option for the Sixers that just came out yesterday. So Fred VanVleet rejected the contract offer from the Raptors, which means come July, he's an unrestricted free agent. So that means he's unrestricted, and there's a good chance he's coming to the Sixers. Now, we don't know for sure if it's going to happen, but that could happen. We could be talking about Mr. Fred VanVleet in a Sixers uniform, especially being that Nick Nurse was his coach with the Raptors. Now he's with the Sixers, and sometimes when a coach moves, they usually bring one player from the former team with them. You see it in all sports. And that's something they're going to do right here. That's something that might happen. VanVleet might come to the Sixers. Now, we don't know if it's going to happen. It's not, a contract hasn't been signed. Let's not get too excited yet. But there is a possibility that it could happen. Now, if you guys want to hype up Fred VanVleet, I'm all in favor of it. Because that is a realistic possibility and something that could actually work in making the transition from Doc Rivers to Nick Nurse. So I think this is a realistic possibility. I think another realistic possibility is maybe if you're going to trade Tobias, do something with the Pacers to get Buddy Hield. That's something that could happen. Again, that doesn't mean it will happen. But if you think about it, there is a possibility it could happen. You never know. So, hey, you know what? I'm all in faith. So, hey, if that's the direction they want to go, all power to them. And if they do pull it off, awesome. But hey, those are just some realistic possibilities. And you could maybe go for a veteran like a Rudy Gay, sign him in free agency, do a short deal. He's a veteran that could actually help. But you do need to get younger too, though. You need to invest in a draft pick here. Definitely keep D'Anthony Melton, I think. Yeah, you got to move on from guys like PJ Tucker. And even Harden at this point can go too. If he wants to rejoin the Rockets, it's not going to matter to me. I think they can move on from him. If you got guys like VanVleet, Buddy Hield fill the spot, that's nice. Maybe you could bring back a Seth Curry as a bench piece because he'd help with the bench. Like, these are some realistic possibilities that could happen. Now, will some of them happen? Maybe. Will all of them happen? No, I don't think all that's going to happen. But these are realistic possibilities that could happen, that you could get excited about as a fan and actually see happening. Doesn't mean that's all going to happen, but it could happen. Guys like Seth, VanVleet, the trade with Tobias and Halliburton, those are realistic possibilities. So if fans want to come on here and talk about those possibilities and push for it, all power to you. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here, acknowledge that there's been too much unrealistic pushes by fans out here. And I'm just saying, like, look, we got to get realistic. So I had to come on here, throw out some realistic proposals as a reminder. But now I'm going to switch gears to another sport. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Eagles. And there's not really much to talk about significantly at this point of the year. Let's face it. It's football season. It's not football season. I mean, yeah, you still got a few more months before that. So, yeah, what I will say is this. I will say, look, there is this thing with, the only thing I want to address is the whole Darius Slay, Matt Patricia thing. It's been put out there that Darius Slay has cool with Matt Patricia. They've made up and they're on the same page. Because we all know about the history from them time in Detroit when Slay was with the Lions and Patricia was the head coach. But there was mainly the most notable thing was one particular comment during a film session that Patricia made to Slay in front of the rest of the team. That's caused drama there. But Slay says they're on the same page and they're focused on the same goal, and I hope that's true. I hope for all parties involved, they can at least coexist now. I hope so. Because we don't want drama in the locker room. And you don't want to run the risk that Slay and Patricia in the same environment is going to cause some drama. Now, obviously, one of the main reasons Slay left, ironically, was to get away from that drama, and that's why he came to the Eagles. That's one of how we got him. Mainly because of the deteriorating relationship between Slay and Patricia in Detroit, which landed Darius Slay to the Eagles. So that helped us out, actually. And then Ironically, now here comes Matt Patricia to the Eagles coaching staff in a different role, of course, but still on the Eagles staff nonetheless, which is the irony of this whole situation. But all I can really say is I hope this works out. Let's just hope there's no drama in the locker room. Let's just hope it doesn't really boil over. And to be fair with Patricia in his new role, he's not going to have as much power as he did as the head coach. But I'm just hoping this works out. I'm hoping there's no drama at all. Hope we don't hear anything about Patricia and Slay. Now, obviously, so yeah, now we're going to be moving on. I'm going to switch gears and talk about a different sport now for a little bit. Don't really talk about this much live, but I decided to do so. We're going to talk actually about MMA and the UFC world a little bit. Talk about Amanda Nunes retiring from mixed martial arts after her victory on Saturday at UFC 289 by decision. She retires, officially the featherweight and bantamweight champion. She laid both belts down and the gloves on top of it to signify that she's walking away. And Amanda Nunes, in terms of the sports world, she's a significant figure. And here's where it comes into play. When it comes to talking about equality in sports and pushing women to get more opportunities, Amanda Nunes is one of those women who actually did help with that. Because we talk about with the WNBA, NBA pay gap. And one of the biggest things about the WNBA and the NBA is while the WNBA does have its followers, the NBA is clearly going to be first most popular. I mean, that's nothing against anyone in the WNBA. It's just the way it is. And with mixed martial arts and the UFC brand, over the past decade, ever since Ronda Rousey broke on the scene, women have actually been one of the main attractions for the UFC. Starting with Ronda Rousey. She was at one point the main star. And she really helped out there in terms of pushing the way for women to have more opportunities. Here comes Ronda Rousey in what was before that a male sport. She's main eventing pay-per-views. Her fights are being the main fights that casual fans are talking about. You know, she's being featured on the head of pay-per-views. She's one of the main personalities that was recognized in the mainstream. So it was doing good in terms of pushing for more opportunities in women's sports for them to get acknowledged, recognized, and paid. And Ronda Rousey helped pave that way for Amanda Nunes, who's now, honestly, the greatest MMA female fighter. I would say she's the greatest fighter from a circuit fighter standpoint over Miesha Tate, Rousey, and Cyborg. And you look at her resume, she's defeated the best she's gone against. She defeated, I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. She defeated Shevchenko, Miesha Tate. She basically retired Ronda Rousey in late 2016, beat Holly Holm, beat Jessica Pena. And she went out there and beat everyone she needed to beat. Hey, and also, you know, she's former featherweight champ, two-time bantamweight champ, retired as bantamweight champion. You know, and she also tied Anderson Silva for most title fights won in that organization with 11. Obviously, she's a Hall of Famer for that organization. And most UFC wins in a row with 12-fight win streak. Because see, difference between boxing and MMA is those win streaks in MMA, they're not as common and they don't run as long as they do in boxing. See, it's a lot easier for boxing to cherry pick opponents and put together those longer winning streaks. Whereas MMA, it's not as easy to do that. So, hey, a 12-fight win streak in that sport is a significant accomplishment. And Amanda Nunes, she pulled it off. And she helped follow in Ronda Rousey's footsteps of keeping women relevant in that sport and making them, make them one of the main subjects along with the men in that sport. She's one of the main subjects currently, along with John Bones Jones in that sport. So obviously, Amanda Nunes, hey, congratulations on a great career and best of luck in your retirement. So now there is one last thing I'm going to talk about right here before closing it out. We're going to go back to Philly sports. You can tell by the background. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Phillies here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened last night because while the main thing in the sports world was obviously the NBA Finals, Denver Nuggets win the championship. We already talked about that. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Phillies. They had an interesting night in their, or I should say, an eventful night in their 9-8 loss to the Diamondbacks. Now, the Phillies, unfortunately, they did take the loss. They fell to 32 and 34, but they do have the chance to get a win back tonight. But to be fair, hey, I mean, the Phillies, on the scoreboard, it don't look too bad because, like, hey, you went out there against the top team in the NL, in the Diamondbacks. You lost by a point. But at the same time, they collapsed. They started off, they were up to a 5-1 lead at one point, and they collapsed. And you also had Corbin Carroll from the Diamondbacks. He was hit twice by pitches, and this led to Torey Lovullo, the manager of the Diamondbacks, getting heated, talking to the umpire. Umpire told him, hey, to leave. Told him to go back to the bench. You'll get ejected. He didn't listen. He continued arguing. He eventually was ejected, and the bench cleared for a minute. I mean, it wasn't a brawl or anything, but there was a heated confrontation with that right there. And the Phillies got sloppy late. They let the Diamondbacks come back into it. But hey, they did try to put up a fight there. Got Romaldo put up a nice effort right there. He had a double in the ninth to at least give him a chance. And also, he made history. For the first time since 2004, a Phillies player had a single, double, triple, and home run in the same game. So it was like, it's a weird game because on one hand, it's embarrassing. They blew a big lead, but at the same time, they still, they made history last night. You had to play Romaldo made history last night. So, hey, that's a positive right there. But at the same time, falling short after a 5-1 lead is embarrassing. But it's like at the same time, they did lose to the top team in the NL because the Diamondbacks are the top team in the NL. And they're on top of the NL West. Phillies are 3 games back in the NL East, and they're 8th in the conference. So obvious, but the way they've been playing lately, if they keep playing that way, they should have worked their way up and build momentum, at least to make the playoffs again and have another shot at getting back at the World Series. So it's not all that bad it's not necessarily panic mode for the Phillies. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about it because that wasn't the most eventful thing that happened with Philly sports in the recent 24 hours. So yeah, so there's not much else to talk about right now. I mainly talked about the subjects I wanted to talk about. So we're going to give some closing thoughts right here. So I want to thank everyone for coming through, leaving comments in the chat. Thanks, Almighty. You don't even thank Stardust for coming in here. And then you also have, Mitch comes in here, of course. So to everyone that came through, thanks for coming through, stopping by. If you haven't done so, drop a like, whichever platform you're watching from, whether it be the Hardcore Sports Network or my channel. If you haven't done so already, please do me a favor, sub up both channels. Real quickly, I'm going to share the link for everyone. I'm going to leave it in the comment. For those that haven't subbed to my channels, you know where to find it. Give me one moment so I can copy and paste the link. That way you can follow. There you go. There's the link to, there's the link to the video, All right. We botched that right there. Okay, there's the link to my channel right there. So there's the link right there. If you haven't come across it yet, my channel right there. Make sure you subscribe for more. And I'll be back live tomorrow on the network, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 29 of the Pick and Roll podcast with Mitch Kofsky, Next Shift Randy, and some other possible guests joining in, where we'll be just recapping the NBA Finals, talking about some other subjects as well, likely previewing the draft. That's tomorrow, 5 p.m. exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network. So again, everyone that tuned in, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Might drop a few more shorts later in the day. But yes, again, thank you. And until next time, signing off.